What's up guys? Today on Robbie's Reviews, I am reviewing the 2020 Porsche Taycan Turbo S. I just want to thank my friend Matt, who recently bought the Taycan from Champion Porsche here in South Florida. And today he's allowed me to take the Taycan out on the road to see what it's like to drive, and also to show you guys all of its amazing luxury features and cool tech. Let's go check it out. Alright guys, here she is, the 2020 Porsche Taycan Turbo S. And that's the first thing I want to start with, is the pronunciation of the name of this car. So it's not Taycan, Toucan, Taken. It is Taycan. The word Tay and Can. So now that that's out of the way, let's continue with the review of this incredible silent supercar killer. So starting at the front of the Taycan, you can see we have an extremely futuristic looking design. It looks nothing like a modern gas-powered car, and that's kind of the point. So being an electric vehicle or an EV, Porsche was able to really get creative with the design of this car because there isn't a traditional combustion engine under the hood, or the front trunk I should say, and there's no traditional driveline, drivetrain. So they were really able to go crazy with the design of this car, and it really shows here. Now, as many of you may have seen, the Mission E concept car that was debuted several years back, and now with the production Taycan sitting right in front of us, you can really see just how similar it is to the Mission E concept car. Now starting off with the headlights here, you can see that they look like they're on, but they're not. They're actually Porsche's LED matrix system, so they're LED laser lights, and I believe it's a $3,000 option, and honestly they just look incredible. They look like they belong in an art gallery and not on the front of a car. But you can see this this blue accenting here, both on the trim here and actually where the LED lasers are. The owner of the car, Matt, tells me that at night this blue color is actually reflected onto the road surface, so it's a very, very cool futuristic looking headlight. So this center projector here that houses the LED laser light is the high beam and the low beam. And then these four pieces on each corner of the headlight are the daytime running lights, or DRLs. So it's a very, very cool design, and really just completes the look of the front of the car. And continuing with the rest of the front bumper, you have these functional air vents that actually feed air around the side of the car. And this vehicle has the exterior carbon fiber package. So you have this amazing carbon fiber front splitter. This actually has functional vents that feeds all the various coolers and stuff that this vehicle needs. And right here you have a front camera. That's for the 360-degree parking system. You have your parking sensors. Here you can get a closer look at the LED matrix system. And I'll turn these on in a little bit so you guys can get a better look at them. So continuing down the side of the car, first I just want to take a look at the overall silhouette of this vehicle. As you can see, it looks like nothing else on the road. Very, very futuristic, very streamlined, smooth. You can really tell it was just designed to slip effortlessly through the air, silently and efficiently. Now starting off with these incredible looking wheels, they are forged 21-inch wheels all around, and they actually mimic the Mission E concept car wheels very nicely. And sitting behind them are the largest brakes ever put on any production sedan, and also any factory production Porsche sedan, I should say. They are 10-piston carbon ceramic brakes. They are absolutely massive. I know that the video is not doing them justice, but they are massive. They bite really hard, especially when they're hot, and they're just really, really cool to look at. And coming down the side here, you have one of the Taycan's 2 charging ports, and it's not a traditional door where you open it on a lot of EVs. Now this is probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen, but to open the charging port door, you simply swipe your finger underneath, revealing the charging port. And then to close it, you simply swipe your finger again. And there it goes. And then next to that, you have an electric badge in this cool font here. And then under this badge, you actually have another vent here. It's not functional, but it looks very cool. And coming up here, you have those amazing carbon fiber mirror caps. Always love the carbon fiber weave that Porsche uses. And continuing on with the exterior carbon fiber package, you have this carbon fiber side skirt here. Very, very cool. Now moving up to the door handles. Like on a lot of modern luxury cars these days, or very high-tech vehicles, you have hideaway door handles, or door handles that retract into the vehicle and stay smooth against the surface and the doors. And the Taycan Turbo S is certainly no exception. And to bring the door handles out, you simply start to put your hand underneath. It'll automatically recognize your hand, and the mirrors come out, as long as the key is in your pocket. And then you can open the door. Now to close it, it's kind of a reverse of that. So once you close the door, you simply touch the sensor here, handles go in, mirrors fold in, and you get a little chime or chirp from the car to let you know that it's locked. Same goes for the rear door handles here. You simply go like that, comes out, mirrors come out there, and close it just like that. Very cool. And I really just love the window line of this car. You do have a B-pillar, but it's made to look like one solid glass panel, so very, very cool design. And especially with window tint like Matt has done on this car, it just looks like one floating window. It looks very, very cool. Now coming up to the roof here, you have one massive panel of glass that goes all the way from the front of the car to the back window here. And it's actually an active electrochromatic window pane. So depending on the ambient temperature outside, the sunlight, or whether it's at night, the roof will actually tint itself or lighten depending on the situation outside. So continuing down here, what looks to be a hatchback is actually just a regular trunk. So you have this panel here. And at the back of the Taycan here, we have this full-length LED light bar, which I'll turn on in a little bit so you guys can see it. We have the Taycan Turbo S badging. Now, I'm going to get to the elephant in the room here, which is the Turbo S in the nameplate of this car. Now, it was controversial, but I mean, there's a lot of cars that have names that don't really make sense. Now, I know the vehicle doesn't actually have turbos or even a combustion engine, but Turbo S is Porsche's thing. That's something they've used for decades, and I think it's a fitting name for this car. And Turbo S really just signifies that it is the baddest, the fastest version of this Taycan, because there's also a regular Taycan, there's a 4S, and there's a Turbo. So Turbo S is the biggest and the baddest model, and I feel like that is fitting for the name of this car. Now in the back of the car, of course, you have no exhaust system, so you just have kind of like these vent-looking things here with a carbon fiber rear diffuser as part of that carbon fiber package. And of course, this vehicle was purchased at Champion Porsche, just down the road from where I am right now. You have the rear parking sensors, and you also have the rear camera, which actually has a little cleaner on it. I'm not sure if you guys can see that, or a little sprayer. So there's a button in the car, you can press that, and it'll actually spray the camera and clean it, so you don't have to get out and do it yourself. Now, there are three ways you can open the trunk of the Taycan Turbo S. The first one is inside the car. The second one is this very obvious looking button here. You simply press that. The power trunk opens up. And then the third way is once you close it back down using the button. With the key fob in your pocket, you simply swipe your foot underneath. There's no need to actually kick the car. There's a sensor that will sense your foot doing the swiping motion. And as you can see, it's really not the biggest trunk in the world. It does go back pretty far, but honestly, it's all you really need. It's not an SUV, and it's not a large luxury sedan. There's actually plenty of trunk space for what it is. You have little storage cubbies here, little nets here and there. And there is a floor underneath. You can put some other things down there. Now, every car has to have a glow-in-the-dark safety latch or an escape button to get out of the trunk if you've been kidnapped. So instead of a ugly latch or lever in this car, Porsche has added a really cool looking button here that glows in the dark and actually flashes too. And there's a little exit sign there with two arrows pointing towards it. Very cool. And to simply close the trunk, you can either hit this button, which will lock the vehicle, fold in the mirrors and the door handles, or this button, which will just close the trunk. And coming over to the rear wheels, you can see those massive carbon ceramic brakes again. They are oversized 4 pistons in the back, and of course the 10 pistons in the front. The stopping power of this car is really just unmatched. And something else cool I just noticed, when you're approaching the Taycan Turbo S with the key in your pocket, the door handles will actually come out, and the mirrors as well, and then the vehicle unlocks. And something I missed in the front of the Taycan, there are actually 2 ways that you can open the front trunk or the Frunk. The first way is this key here, which is actually nice chalk color, it matches the interior. You can open the front trunk right there, or you simply just run your hand along the bumper here. It opens up like so. And as you can see, the front trunk or the Frunk is a pretty good add-on to the space that you already have in the rear of the Taycan. You have your wiper fluid here, some coolant and stuff like that. Nothing really crazy. It says Taycan right there, pretty cool. Of course, you have that lovely Porsche crest or Porsche badge right on the front trunk here. And in the windshield, you have things like the rain sensor for the auto wipers, as well as the lane keep assist camera. It also has functions for at night, involving the auto high beams and stuff like that. And on the passenger side, you have the other charging port. You simply swipe your finger to open it up. You can see inside you have your charging port. Now this side is DC AC. This will actually let your car charge 100% in about 20 minutes if you have the proper charger. Otherwise, you have to use the other side, which most people have in regular chargers in their garage and stuff. So pretty cool. You just swipe again to close it up. So right now I'm going to turn on those LED headlights and taillights so you guys can check them out. So this is a lot easier than in most cars. Instead of having to go over and press ignition or whatever, you just press this button here, being an electric car. Of course, it's on the left side, being that Porsche always has their ignition on the left side. You have the key. We actually have the headlight controls here. So we'll press on right there. You can see here the daytime running lights or the DRLs are a little bit dimmed out when you have the laser projector on. Looks very, very bright. It's hard for the camera to really pick it up. There we go. And of course around back, you have that awesome full-length LED light bar. And actually, one other thing I want to point out is the Porsche letters back here that are raised. It looks like they're laid in some kind of circuit board or circuitry. Now that's cool. And we'll put the hazard lights on real quick. So it's pretty cool. The hazard lights are actually these four pieces in each corner here, and they're LED switchbacks, so it's pretty cool. You have turn signals on the side. It's actually pretty unique. Usually these would be regular side markers, but instead they're turn signals, since there's nothing on the actual mirror. And coming around the side here, you can see the full-length light bar stays lit up, and you have the brake lights / turn signals on the side. Very thin, modern design. Love it. And now that I've got the headlights back to auto, you can see the DRLs or daytime running lights are very bright, especially out here in the South Florida sun. Very, very cool. And there's no way you'd mistake this car for anything else when it's behind you. All right, so right now we're going to step inside the Taycan Turbo S and check out the interior. All right. So, as you probably just noticed, the second we got inside the Taycan Turbo S, it sensed that we were in the car. There was no need to hit the power button over here. It simply just turned on. All right, so let's start off with the steering wheel. It's a very thin-rimmed, small diameter steering wheel, fully leather-wrapped. You have the nice leather-wrapped horn cover here with the Porsche crest. And you have your controls here for your custom shortcut button, which is this diamond symbol here. You can really program anything to that. You have your voice commands, and of course you have more of that amazing carbon fiber trim here on the steering wheel. It's more of a dry carbon on the inside, as well as all along the door panels here. Just an amazing looking interior. And on the other side of the steering wheel, you have your phone controls, your back button here for your information. So this will really control your gauge cluster, which you'll notice is not a like a regular rectangle or square like most cars have with their gauge cluster displays nowadays. It's actually the shape of a gauge cluster. It's a curved display. Very, very cool. So with this button here, you can actually scroll between the different sections of the gauge cluster. You can choose which to adjust. And then with the scroll wheel here, you can actually go in between each section. So if you can scroll here, you can choose which information to have. So Porsche dynamic chassis control. Pretty cool. Then you can go back. And then you have your front and rear torque split, your G-force, traffic signs, assistance systems, and then you can go to the middle screen here. And something else that's really cool is nowadays a lot of vehicles have these little movies that they play upon wake up or start up, and also shut down. And the Taycan Turbo S takes that a step further. So if you press the off button over here, we actually get a little silhouette of the Taycan with the logo, and then the vehicle will rotate, and that light bar will kind of like fade away. Really cool little touch. Now there's a couple different designs you can choose for your gauge cluster layout. The first one is this power meter here, and then you can actually scroll to your map. So you have a partial map that takes up just the center part of the gauge cluster. If you scroll down again, you get the extended map, and that really takes up the whole gauge cluster, so you can have your navigation map if you don't want to have it in this center infotainment screen over here. And then another choice you have is reduced. So this is kind of like a race mode or track mode. You only have your miles per hour, no tachometer because it's an electric car, so you just have your speedometer there. And then my personal favorite is actually the power meter. It's pretty cool. And then once again, you can scroll between any one of these and choose your information. So you can have drive mode, sport, chrono. That's pretty cool. You can actually choose your navigation. So you can have a little map over here or your current position. And then you have drive mode. And speaking of the drive mode selector, which is down here, simply just use the knob there. You can cycle between sport, sport plus, which will actually lower the car. And you actually have a lifter symbol over there. We'll get to that in a little bit. Individual. And obviously new for being an electric car or electric Porsche, you have range mode. So that really makes it so you have the max range, and of course your max speed is only 70 miles an hour, so no crazy driving or any acceleration. And this is probably one of the coolest gauge clusters I've ever seen, because they've actually integrated a lot of controls that are usually put into weird areas or just used in just wasted space. So starting on the left side of the gauge cluster, you actually have this screen over here that I showed you earlier. It has all your headlight controls, so you just tap them. Very, very responsive. Headlights on, off, fog lights or rear fog lights, auto. Put it back to auto. Then on the right side, things get really cool. You have your traction control off button, which is something I wouldn't do in this car. I know it's electric and it's all-wheel drive, but this is actually a pretty dangerous car, and turning off traction is not something I would want to do. You actually have your suspension modes. So chassis cannot be adjusted in the current drive mode because we're in range mode. So we're going to put it back into Sport Plus, hitting the suspension button again. You can see there Sport Suspension, Sport Plus, and then Comfort. And there you have the Diamond, which you can actually configure to do anything you want. So the owner of the car has this set to his home link. So when he goes to his house, the car will automatically know to open the garage or anything he really sets it to. And you can configure new profiles and add really anything you want. And this car can do a lot of things, and you can program any of those things to this diamond button here. Of course, you can also press it over here on the steering wheel and it'll bring up the same thing. And coming down here, the stock on the right side of the steering wheel, you actually have all your windshield wiper controls. And the left stock here, which is your turn signals. Pretty cool. Now coming over here, you have this very interesting looking electronic shifter. It's just reverse, neutral, and drive, and then you have a park button. And what's pretty funny is this exact little shifter is right around here on the transmission tunnel of the new 911. Now, I'm not really a fan of it in the 911 where they stuck it right in the middle, but it really is fitting here in the Taycan Turbo S. So very cool, very futuristic. Now continuing over to one of the two center screens, and yes, I said one of the two. So this is your main infotainment screen, a touch screen. You can control everything in the car from here if you don't want to control it from over here on the steering wheel. And then down below you have, now similar to what some other car companies are doing these days, like Audi, Lamborghini, and of course Porsche, but that's all VW Group, so it's really all their technology. However, none of those cars have really done to this extent yet. So you have this screen here, which houses all your climate controls. You have your hotkeys for your navigation, music, phone, vehicle settings. And you also have heated and ventilated seats. Pretty cool. You can sync it. You have your fan speed and all that. It's a haptic feedback. You really do have to press it like it's a button, but it feels nice. Very, very cool. And you have a cool audible feedback. And down here you actually have a little pad. And something I want to show you guys that I've never seen before, and I think is so redundant, but very cool nonetheless. You can actually use this little screen down here to control this screen. So just by hitting back, if you guys can see this, it's actually following every little movement of my finger just on this screen. You can actually extend the size of the screen too. So every little movement I'm making, the more I hit back. So you're basically using this screen to control this screen. That's something I've just never seen before. It's so cool. And all the same controls you have on the screen here. Like if you want to touch the screen here, you can do that. But if you don't want to move your hand the extra 8 inches up here, you just keep your hand down here and use that. That is just amazing. Now something else I want to show you guys is this little Taycan icon here. And it actually brings up a little diagram of the car. You can actually open and close each charging port. You can open the front trunk and you can open the rear trunk and close it. The only thing you can't do is close the front trunk. So exiting out of that, you can hit this little battery icon here, and it shows you your current charge level, your range. You can actually pre-cool and heat the car up. So exiting out of this, and continuing up with the main infotainment display, we'll just use the touchscreen here for now. We're no point in using this screen down here. I know it's a cool feature, but honestly, just prefer to use the center touchscreen. So just like on this screen, you have your charging level, your range, different profiles. You can pre-cool and heat. You have your different climate zones. You can set it so the car will always be a certain temperature. So even though there is this big glass panel roof, electrochromatic glass that will adjust how dark or light it is depending on the temperature outside, the car will always sense what the temperature is on the inside, so it'll always be at the temperature that you set it. And then if we go to vehicle settings here, you have your different drive modes. You have Sport Plus, chassis height. You have recuperation mode, which is kind of like regeneration on Teslas, although it's a little bit different. It doesn't actually change the way the car slows down. The car will actually coast a lot more than a Tesla would, whereas a Tesla seems like it's actually getting on the brakes. And this electric sport sound, which I'll show you guys in a little bit, is a really cool feature that Porsche did. So it basically emits what sounds like sci-fi sounds or sci-fi sound effects throughout the interior, as well as in each wheel well there's a speaker. But it perfectly matches the speed of the car and what you're doing. And I know it sounds gimmicky, but what Porsche actually did was they put a microphone inside where the motors are, the electric motors, and they recorded the actual noise that they make that our ears wouldn't be able to pick up because it's happening internally in the motor. But Porsche took that noise and they dubbed it into the car so it comes through the speakers. And it's something you really do have to experience in person, but I'll try to get it to come out on the video later for you guys.
It has microphones on the electric motor, and it's
cool.
Picking up the frequencies, and then it filters out the bad frequencies.
It's a sci-fi sound.
Yeah, sounds like Lost in Space.
Oh my god,
That's so funny.
You can't imagine what the Turbo S is like.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure we'll find out eventually.
And then this has launch control and all of that, but it's...
Wow. You tried launch control already?
No.
So continuing down here, of course, and here's kind of like your notification center for when your phone is connected. Although the owner tells me that he has it set up for where you don't even need to have your phone in the car to access all this information, so that's pretty cool. So back to settings here, you have all your assistants. You have basic assist, park assist, lane keep assist, active lane keeping, lane change assist, intersection assist. Just kind of your typical safety features that are coming on every car nowadays. You have your comfort setting here. You have your various ambient lighting. Not really going to be able to show you that, but you can kind of see all the ways you can adjust it throughout the vehicle and the different colors. Good amount of colors you can choose from. Overall brightness 100%. You have your doors, cup holder, center console, footwell. I actually don't mind that noise that the car makes every time you press a button. I'm sure you can turn it off, but I don't mind it. Here you have your driver's seat controls, and you can actually adjust your seat heating balance and your seat ventilation balance. You can have hot and cold at the same time, however you want. Passenger seat, same thing. And then pretty cool, that something a lot of cars like Mercedes-Benz's will do. You can actually control the passenger seat from the driver's seat controls. So using the seat controls down here on the side of the seat, I can actually control the front seat. That's actually really cool. Pretty cool. Somebody gets out and you have the seat in your blind spot or something and you want to move it up. And something I want to point out real quick is look how incredible these headrests are. The design is just so cool. I've never seen anything like it. To push them in, you simply hit this button here. It slides in, it slides back out, which is very, very cool. Now coming over to the passenger side, you can see that this Taycan has the optional passenger screen. And speaking of options, I don't have the window sticker, but the owner tells me that this is as high a spec of a Taycan Turbo S as you can get. It's about a $220,000 sticker, and it has literally every single option. And that's really the reason that he got it. So you also have the Sport Chrono up here, very cool feature. And something interesting about the passenger screen is it'll say Taycan here. So it'll know when nobody's sitting in the seat here, so it'll just display that. But we're going to move over to the passenger seat now so we can check out the passenger screen. So stepping into the passenger side, first thing I want to show you is on the silhouette plate here, which is also in this amazing dry carbon fiber. You see it says Taycan Turbo S and it lights up. Of course, with the amazing carbon fiber on the side skirts. Stepping in. And you notice for the optional Burmester sound system, you have those incredible laser cut speaker grills. Now we can't play music for copyright reasons, but rest assured it is one of the best sound systems I've ever heard in a car. And so here we have the passenger screen. And similar to some other cars like Ferraris and some other VW group models that have it, With the Porsche Taycan Turbo S, you actually have more freedom. So instead of just it being a display, you can actually change vehicle settings that wouldn't actually affect the drivability. So going to navigation here, you can actually get a crystal clear display of the area that we're in right now. And then going back, you can go to media. You can actually have settings here. Passenger display, you can have the different settings, so the brightness, proximity sensors, standby mode, turn on display. And back to settings, you have Burmester. And this will actually let you choose the different settings. It's all grayed out right now because the radio is off. However, we press that, turn on. You have listening position, symmetric, sound enhancer, sound conditioner, balance and fader, bass and treble. And we'll turn that off for now. So if we go back here, we actually have a bunch of other things. We have cockpit. So this is actually what the driver is viewing. Instead of just having to look over there, you can simply look here and we can see what the driver is seeing. So that's mile an hour, current position, what mode we're in, Sport Plus, the connectivity, time, and if you want to turn the screen off, you can just turn it off. You can have passenger display in standby mode. It says Taycan. It's got kind of a cool background. I'm not sure if you guys can really see that. Kind of a cool carbon fiber looking background. But to turn on the screen again, you simply touch on the Taycan logo there. And it brings it up. You can go back home. And there's really just a whole host of settings and stuff. You can have your weather. Weather's currently loading. So right now we're in Pompano Beach, Florida. It's bringing up the current weather. Very, very cool. And below the passenger screen, you actually have a pretty decently sized glove box with a little light in there. And coming over to the center console, below this screen here, you have a Taycan logo. It looks very cool. You have a cup holder, another cup holder. Then you have the center console, pretty decent amount of space. And you actually have a charging slot for your phone. It actually tells you exactly how to charge the phone too. It'll tell you which way the screen is supposed to be facing out. And then actually one more thing I want to show you with the climate controls is, so if you go to your menu, AC, it'll give you your different options for ventilation. You can go diffused, focused, or individual. You have air quality, and once again, you can use this screen down here to control the top one. So let's go to ventilation. Right now the owner has it on focused, but you can actually have it on individual. And the vents just made a little noise. You can, once we turn down the fan speed, you can actually drag and control exactly where the vent is going. I'm not sure if you guys can even see that, but the vent is moving. Pretty cool. And this feature was first introduced on the 2017 Porsche Panamera. So a lot of people claim that this feature was taken from the Tesla Model 3. However, that is not the case. And not that I'm a Tesla hater or anything like that. However, I just want to address that this is not, in my opinion, a competitor to Tesla. Yes, it's an electric car. Yes, it's a luxury car. However, the Tesla Model S, in my opinion, can no way compete with this car as far as interior quality, driving dynamics. Sure, the Tesla Model S has more range, but this is Porsche's first attempt at an electric car, and in all honesty, they knocked it out of the park, home run, and I honestly can't wait to see what they're going to be doing in 3 to 5 years. So my friend Matt, who owns this Taycan Turbo S, has actually told me that this is his favorite car that he's ever owned. And he's owned just about everything you can think of. Porsche 911 GT2 RS, McLaren 675 LT, Ferrari 458 Speciale, every luxury car that's ever been out. And he tells me that this is the only car he's ever had that he looks forward to getting into in the morning and driving to work. Now, if that's not a testimony to just how amazing this car is and what an incredible job that Porsche did, then I don't know what else is. Like I was saying, the build quality in here, the fit and finish. Now, it is an electric car, but it's also a Porsche, and a luxury Porsche at that. And it really shows. I mean, honestly, I feel like I'm in a very futuristic version of the Panamera. And now I recently reviewed a 2017 Porsche Panamera Turbo. And while that was cool, this is almost like what the Panamera should have been. But I'm honestly really glad that this is its own model and not what the Panamera kind of evolved into. This is an incredible first entry into the electric car market for Porsche, and I honestly can't wait to see what they have in store. Now let's step out of the passenger seat and into the back seat. Oh, and one more thing I want to show you guys. You have the double pane glass here, which unlike a Tesla, provides superior sound deadening, and there's virtually no wind noise in this car, and you'll see what I mean in a little bit when we take it for a drive. So into the back seat of the Taycan Turbo S. Of course, in the rear you have those same amazing laser cut speaker grills for the Burmester sound system. And you actually have a screen back here for your AC controls. So it's a 2-zone climate control back here, and you have climate menu. And just like the front, you also drag this little screen here to choose where the vents are going, as well as the degree that they're on or off, or how much air they're putting out. And you have your fan speed. It's a 2-zone, very, very cool, and you have rear heated seats. You can also just turn it off entirely, pretty cool. And then, just like the front, the fit and finish back here is amazing. This vehicle has the optional middle seat, but the outer seats are actually bucket seats, just like the front. Not as heavily bolstered or as comfortable, if I'm honest. But back here, honestly, have plenty of room. And as cool as the view from the front is with that amazing panoramic roof, the view from the back is just insane. I mean, I'm looking directly into the sun, and I'm not being blinded at all. You don't feel any heat. I mean, putting my hand up against the glass here, there's no heat coming through. The sun is blazing down on us, yet I can't feel any heat. It is honestly incredible, the technology that is in this car. And here you actually have a little armrest, as well as some cup holders. Pretty cool. Now, the visibility out of the back is really not that bad. It is a very, very small window. However, you do have not really any blind spots in this car. The C-pillar is not that big, or I guess D-pillar. This would technically be the C-pillar here. D-pillar. B-pillar is very thin. The A-pillars are swept back, and just like a supercar, you can see right over the hood. You can almost see directly onto the ground, like you would in any kind of exotic car, or the Porsche 911. And really, just any seat in this car is a lovely place to be, and just love what Porsche did with this car. Alright, so now we're going to take the Taycan Turbo S out on the road and see what it's like to drive. Alright, so driving the 2020 Porsche Taycan Turbo S. As you can see right off the bat, I don't know if you guys can hear that amazing Tron-like sound that the car is emitting. In Sport Plus mode, it is at its loudest setting. And once again, that is just a sound that Porsche recorded using a small microphone inside the inner workings of the electric motors. And that's just the sound that the electric motors emit. And they've actually taken that sound and they're now blasting it through the speakers on the inside of the car. And there's actually a speaker in each wheel well, and it'll emit that sound, I think, up to 30 or 40 miles an hour. So very, very cool. And just right off the bat, it feels like any other Porsche I've ever driven. Very, very quiet, soft, comfortable ride. And then when you want it, all that performance is there. So we're gonna get on it real quick. And that was maybe quarter throttle. You can honestly feel the amount of horsepower this car has. So let's step on it here. So yeah, just that little burst of acceleration. I don't know if it came out on the video, but I spun all 4 tires, and there were some leaves on the ground, so it lost traction there, but this car is just instant. I mean, you honestly have to hold on to the steering wheel for dear life. There's no way anybody can mentally prepare for what this car is capable of. Just honestly in shock right now at the acceleration. I mean, I rode with the owner, my friend Matt, earlier, but driving it is just a different experience. I mean, not even half throttle, and the car is just insanely responsive. Make a U-turn real quick. The vehicle does have rear wheel steering. I mean, this thing has the turning radius of a forklift truck. But this car is just so responsive. I mean, right now I'm in Sport Plus. The air suspension is constantly adjusting. It's fully adaptive. Honestly, it feels like I'm driving a big electric 911. I don't know if there's any other way to describe this car. So I'm gonna punch in right here. Quick little launch. And launch control activated, and oh my God. Wow. I don't know what the 0 to 60 was there, but the owner wasn't kidding when he said you have to have your head against the headrest before you launch in this thing. Otherwise, you can really hurt your neck. See how this thing takes some corners. I mean, it corners, it's unreal. I mean, I hate to keep picking on Tesla, but I would not feel confident throwing a Model S into these corners. And it's funny, is this car weighs over 5,000 pounds, just like the Model S. But, I mean, Porsche has had countless decades of chassis refinement, engineering, and Tesla is really kind of a newbie in town when it comes to designing a car that drives like a sports car. And this right now is a 4-door electric sports car, and honestly getting pretty close to supercar performance levels. And I can't believe I'm saying that. And honestly, I know this is a $220,000 car, but for what you're getting, I mean, it's everything. It's your race car, daily driver, family car in one. And I know I've said that about other cars, but it's just true. There's a select few cars out there that really are I don't want to say jack of all trades, but they're just the best in every category. I mean, honestly, I'm very comfortable right now. I've got my cooled seats on. You have these two lovely screens here for the passenger display in the middle. You have this amazing looking gauge cluster. Very, very clear, crisp graphics, all the information you can want. I love the steering wheel. It's your classic small diameter, thin rimmed Porsche steering wheel. Feels like a 911 steering wheel. It's probably straight out of the 911, honestly. The fit and finish in here, the craftsmanship. I mean, like I was saying earlier, the owner, Matt, has had every car under the sun. And this is the first time he's owned a car where he's excited to get into it in the morning and drive to work. And performance-wise, he's had every supercar you could think of, and none of them perform at the level of this electric family car. Now, I know that's a crazy thing to say, but it's true. I mean, right now I'm just driving around this business park very casually. There are some fun turns, but the second you step on it, you just, yeah, literally sucks the air out of your lungs. I mean, I try to get some words out of my mouth there, but you just can't speak when you're accelerating in this car. It's just nothing like any gas-powered car I've ever driven. And I've driven hybrid vehicles. I've driven very, very powerful cars, but none of them have even come close to the Taycan Turbo S when it comes to driving dynamics, just sheer acceleration. Don't forget stopping power. This car has 10-piston carbon ceramic brakes. Now, as crazy as the acceleration is on this car, when you do launch control, you feel like your face is being pulled back. It goes the other way when you're standing on the brakes. Those 10-piston carbon ceramic brakes, you feel like your face is going to be pulled off of your skull. And I've never felt anything like that in any other car. I've been in supercars with the craziest acceleration, stopping power, handling, and none of them feel near as impressive as this Taycan Turbo S. And I mean, I don't know why I'm surprised. I mean, it's a Porsche. Everything they do is pretty much perfect. And look at the 911. They've had over 50 years to perfect the sports car. They have created the perfect sports car, and they've only been in the electric car industry for a couple of years. This is the first year this car has been out. Obviously, you have the Mission E concept car, and they had a lot of development for that car. But if this is their first entry into the electric car segment, I can't imagine what their next car is going to be. What the electric Cayenne or electric version of a Cayenne is going to be, or their electric supercar. I mean, look at the 918. That's a hybrid. However, what if they make an electric hypercar in the future that just blows everything else out of the water? Because right now, there's no other EV or electric vehicle that I would rather be in than the Porsche Taycan Turbo S. Also, one thing I forgot to add is that unlike a Tesla, this car actually has a second gear, or a gear period, I should say, right around 41, 42 miles an hour. Depending on the mode you're in, of course, you can actually feel the car shift into its second gear. And that actually helps for acceleration and a lot of other things. And just another thing that Porsche thought of to do that's different from your average electric car. Just something that sets them apart. Still just so impressed by this interior. What an amazing place to be. Alright guys, well that should do it for this review of the 2020 Porsche Taycan Turbo S. Once again, I just want to thank my friend Matt, who's allowed me to take his new car out today to see what it's like to drive and to show you guys all of its amazing features. See you next time.